Thank you so much for joining us, Montserrat. I'm Jennifer Beuthin, season 4 of the NLLI, and I'm so grateful to be here with Montserrat. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you are in the country?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Montserrat Garibay. I'm a teacher. I'm a member of the Texas AFT Local 2048, and right now I'm the Secretary Treasurer with the Texas AFL-CIO, and we're based here in Austin.
We're so incredibly lucky to have you today, of all days, but just in general too, because you're an amazing human and force. But the day after an election in Texas, in the middle of a crisis that the world is experiencing right now, and that Texas is experiencing in an incredibly unique way. And so, I guess the first thing I just want to ask is, how are you doing? I feel like I would be so exhausted if I were you, and also triumphant, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. Just taking one day at a time, but also excited about the elections. Nerve-wracking, of course it is, but I think I'm a hopeful person, so always prepare for what's coming. So I'm excited about what's coming.
Yeah. Well, it feels like Texas is such a interesting place right now. It's a microcosm and the epicenter of huge issues, right? Like you have the COVID crisis, which there's so much politics around that, and then you have the elections, and we have so much to learn from you with that. And then you and I met, and this is such a incredible part of the NLLI program. Like we weren't in the same cohort, but we got to meet when I came out to Texas, to Houston, and there was a convening around immigration. And so with the DACA decision and, the other developments in the news, it just seems like you're in such a unique position to educate all of us about kind of what's going on in Texas. And maybe you could start by talking a little bit about how you, as, the leader of the Labor Federation, the State Labor Federation, are responding to all the politics around this recent surge, what the governor is saying about it, what the communities are saying. I know that there are different pockets in the community. What is that like, and how are you able to respond as a leader to all of that?
Yeah, so these are definitely unprecedented times. And, the state of Texas is so big, and the issues that are happening throughout Houston, Dallas, El Paso, Corpus, Amarillo, they're the same, but at the same time, they're so different. And, being in a right to work state, a right to work for less state,
Right.
makes it very challenging because, at the beginning, we have a governor who totally refused to to ask people to wear a simple thing, mask. Like it was such it's been such a big deal for him not to ask Texas to do that, right? And it became such a political issue of, are you wearing a mask? It's because you're a Democrat. If you're not wearing a mask, you're a Republican. I mean, it's crazy, right, to think of these issues, but at the same time, there's just such a divide as well. When you have these elected officials who don't really look at people as people, right? They look at us as disposable napkins where you use them and you throw them away. And as the federation, our role is to support our central labor councils, but support our affiliates, but also to empower them to say, we have people power. We can organize. We might not have a lot of money, but people power organizes. And that has happened throughout our history. And that is something that we're doing. We're resisting. We are organizing. We are being loud when we need to be loud. And, just taking things one step at a time. Whether it is working with, for instance, UFCW, when the plants in the poultry plants in Dallas were being infected by COVID-19, and people just had to they had to decide whether to go to work or not go to work and not get paid, right? And those are very scary decisions that they have to make, but we also have been able to work with some of the elected officials that we have elected and have asked them for help to really make sure that they also do their job to represent our members as well. So it's been challenging, but at the same time, we see that our members are thirsty because they want to see things change. They are tired of being disrespected. They are tired of not getting paid sick leave. They are tired of being mandated to work without the proper PPE. And like just this week, the governor said that they were making all teachers go back to school in at the end of August. And what did we do as a movement? We pushed back. And actually yesterday he said that, okay, fine, you don't have to go back to work. Maybe you can do some type of online education, right? But it was a group of
victory.
Committed, teachers, educators, classified employees, custodians, that they were like, hell no, you cannot do this. And I think that that's the beauty of the power of collective power, right? When we see something that is wrong, we organize and we demand change.
And if you follow Montserrat on Facebook or on any social media, you'll see she's literally everywhere, and all the time it's with workers. I wonder if, as you're going through this, which it seems like it's been forever now, is there a story of a worker or a moment that you're kind of carrying with you as, to kind of inspire you or to push you through this fight?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that there are many stories. When the whole pandemic started to happen, we had members from IATSE who were super excited about South by Southwest starting in March. That's a big deal in Austin. They have all this job, all this work ready for them. And when the whole pandemic started and the mayor of Austin, Steve Adler, kind of shut it down, I talked to some of our IATSE members, and they were sharing how devastating they were feeling, because they had their whole month scheduled with jobs, and all of a sudden they got literally paid for 4 hours. And they were sharing that some of them had to move back to their parents' homes, that they couldn't afford to pay the rent. And that image of him telling me this story really just broke my heart, because I think it's really important that the people that work really hard get paid properly. And I think of the different people that are members of Unite here, who work in the airport, and I know many of them that work so very hard, and all of a sudden they didn't have a job, and they were trying to figure out how to submit their application to get unemployment benefits. And the amount of time that it took for them to just get a phone call or to do their application is outrageous. And we actually were able to organize on that, and we were able to change the waiting time that people needed to wait to get that response. So I think those are the stories that I really think about every day. And I keep thinking of how can we as a federation support our affiliates and our central labor councils, because it is devastating to go to bed when you haven't had anything to eat. I know what that is. I felt that when I was 12 years old and I came as an undocumented student, and I remember seeing my mom so worried about how are we going to pay for the rent? How are we going to eat today? So that feeling, it stays with me, and this is really what drives me to do the work that I do.
Amazing. I mean, I just am remembering a moment years ago during a negotiation where there was a Republican member of an elected body here who was so surprised that $200 a month was the difference between like a meal or being homeless for many of our members. And this idea that you just have the luxury to wait for what, like I'm probably, so many people are on their last $5, and to be able to connect with that, to organize around it, and to make change around it is so powerful. And it also does illuminate the work that we continue to need to do, because like you said before, we're not numbers. Workers are not just numbers. We're human beings. We deserve dignity and, to be paid fairly and to have sick pay. And Thank you for the work you're doing, sister. And I think maybe we can transition to this to a couple of bright spots that are happening in Texas right now too. First, around the DACA program, we got word from the Supreme Court. Very surprisingly, at least I was surprised here. I don't know how you felt about it. And then, Trump's sort of beyond DACA, Trump's initial decision to deport any university student who wasn't who wasn't enrolled in in-person classes. He backed up on that this week. It seems like, geez, these are the things we have to fight for. But I mean, you're just right in the front and center every day fighting for immigrant rights. Can you talk about how you've experienced that and what's going on in your community?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we were not expecting the Supreme Court decision. We have been working a lot with documented immigrant youth and workers who are part of our different unions. So it was a nice surprise, but at the same time, it was very heartbreaking, right? Because we have some members and some people that didn't qualify for DACA because they age out. They were 32 years old when they were supposed to be 31, right? So I think it's really important to understand that we cannot allow this president to use immigration as their political football. When it's convenient, they say, yes, documented people are great. When it's not convenient, you kick out all the H-1B visa people and international students. So we must unite and organize. And I think one of the beauties that I saw this week was how, like, Harvard and all these universities started to write all these, or they started to organize, and they were filing different, what do you call it? Different
briefs and
courts, right? And then as soon as they started doing that, then the Trump administration backed up, right? So I think this is the lesson that I see, is that we need to keep organizing and that we need to keep pushing, because yes, DACA is safe for now, but we also must push for comprehensive immigration reform with a pathway to citizenship. That, to me, it's at the end of the day, it's the end goal. Yes, we won a small battle, but we haven't won the war. And so that's, I think, a really important thing. I still keep in touch with the students of my former students, and yes, they're excited that DACA passed, and they would text me and say, well, what about us? Is anything going to happen with us? Yeah. And that is really, I think the parents are the original dreamers. They were the ones that decided to be courageous and to come to this country. And I think it is our responsibility to advocate for them, because they give their best, they give their sweat and tears every single day, so we can have food at the table, so we can have our beautiful constructions, buildings. And I think that that's the least that we can do as a labor movement, to organize for racial equity as well.
Yeah, I know I'm just kind of struck by, on one hand, the concept of DACA and Dreamers is such a powerful idea, and it was really a great message to bring politically to the nation. And the same is true with how people fight the atrocities around kids being separated from their parents and put in cages on the borders. And those are powerful messages, but that's not it. That's not all. Like, once we handle those two things, there are human beings involved in the entire breadth of the immigration system that we have here. And it's a system that relies on and exploits people who are willing to work for lower wages. And in this moment in COVID, is requiring them to put their lives in danger and their family's life in danger in order to provide us with, not necessities even, a lot of times necessities, and a lot of times luxury. And it's that whole system that that we need to address. And the way that we do that is by recognizing the humanity. And at least from hearing from you, that's what has always moved me whenever I hear you speak, is your story and the people who you touch. And you're making a difference in Texas now. I mean, gosh, after this election, to be able to have people talk about Texas potentially going blue. Can you maybe talk about what kind of effort has gone into that? It's incredible, and also, you know, any lessons learned that you could share with the rest of us.
Yeah, thank you. I think like the number one thing and the most important thing is keep organized, right? I think at the end of the day, yes, it was a good night. We have many really good candidates who we have been working a lot with, and it's kind of like a little bit of light in the at the end of the tunnel to be able to see some of them win their races. But the reality is that we have so many obstacles, right? Like we won't have straight ticket voting in November. So that's something that we are trying to understand how we're going to deal with that in the November elections. But it's how do we had this program of like we're going to block walk and phone bank and all this stuff, and all of a sudden the COVID-19 happens, and it's like, oh wait, we are not going to be able to block walk, or we're not going to be able to do one-on-ones like we had decided to do. So we had to kind of be flexible and also challenge ourselves to think in different ways on how do we connect with our members so they can so they can go out and vote. And it's been challenging, but I think we have really good people in our staff who are thinking of different ways, and really also using technology in a different way, text messaging, doing these Zoom calls with candidates so we can learn about what they're standing for. We're creating our labor own portal, education online. So we're thinking of different ways. So it gives us an opportunity to think outside the box, to challenge ourselves, and to sometimes, like go out of our comfort zones and say, let's try this. And I think that's really important for us as a labor movement to do, but also recognizing that the most basic thing and the most important thing is how do you connect with one another. And that's, to me, the most important thing. How do I connect with our members, whether it's by the phone or by doing a one-on-one in this COVID crisis, so we can share their stories, so we can learn what issues are affecting them, whether you are a member of UFCW or AFGE or the teachers or carpenter or an electrician. We all share something. We all want good public schools. We all want healthcare for all. We all want to make sure that that we live, our lives in a way where we work our share, but we also get paid properly. So that's something that I think we keep bringing it up to everyone. And we had some really good things happening last night, and we're excited to keep working as hard as we can.
Do you feel like you were able to connect with people and have those one-on-ones, and that like people had the same access to be able to vote during COVID as they did before, or is this still kind of a work in progress?
It is still a work in progress, but I think one of the we can't do vote by mail. It's only certain people because there's a big lawsuit, and that's another story. But connecting with one another and letting people know that yes, maybe they couldn't send their vote by mail, but that they can still vote. It's really important. So last night, I was after the polls closed, I got a Facebook message from a teacher, and she said, I've been, I haven't gone out of my house. I've been at home with my family. I didn't want to go vote, but I saw your Facebook message about a responsibility to go vote. And she said, and I put my mask and I went to vote. And I just wanted to, she was like, I wanted to share that because I was so scared, because I don't want my family to get COVID-19. And I replied to her and I said, first of all, thank you for sharing that story. You got to share that with all your family members. And it takes courage. In this time, it takes courage to push yourself to places where they might be scary, but at the end of the day, it is our responsibility to be a voice, whether we have COVID-19 or not. We have to push ourselves to go out and vote and to, recreate our movement in ways that we haven't, but we just have to do it. We don't have a choice.
Yeah, 100%. uh, to that end, I know you have to jump off pretty soon here, and we try, these things never last long enough. It always feels like we have a million other things to cover, but we should probably wrap soon. Wonder if there's anything you'd like to say to the rest of your friends in the NLLI community about that, about, you know, what we need to do from here, and how you're feeling about that.
Yeah, well, no, I have learned so much, and I'm so blessed to be part of the NLLI. And I took one of the first trainings where when the COVID-19 just happened, and I can't remember the name of one of the NLLI participants that said that we couldn't change that something big had happened and that we needed to change with it. Um, and that really stuck in my mind
Mm.
because yes, things are really bad, but it's a new opportunity for us to kind of reinvent ourselves and to go back to basics, to build those relationships, to make sure that we are talking with one another. And it really also made me really be cognizant of the fact that we're all so different, right? And that we need to really take time to kind of nurture that about how everybody's different and how we all need to check on each other.
Mhm.
And there's different ways to do that, but I feel that I'm just very appreciative of the the lessons of the NLLI because it's really empowered me to push myself to be what I can be without being scared. And I think that to me has been one of the greatest gifts because sometimes I feel sometimes that that people say, oh, that crazy Mexican, what is she thinking? And to be able to be in a group of people that think like you
Mm.
and support you and are rooting for you, it's a great place to be, and it just gives me more energy.
Oh, sister, you give us so much energy. We're so grateful for your leadership and friendship and your time today and all the work you're doing. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, and thank you to everyone. And we're all in this together, and we know that without our supporting each other, we wouldn't be where we're at. So very grateful for you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.